to the various wings of government for prosecution purposes. But the other audits are just presented for Parliament, submitted to the public so that the public can have access to them.
Mr. Zambia, can also indicate to us the other 3 or 4 that are remaining.
Okay, thank you very much, Julius. So I'll talk about the other 3 audits, which is financial audits, compliance audits, and public financial management audits. So when it comes to financial audits,
yeah, so maybe before we go into that, it's just important that you have as well as public financial management audit and forensic and ICT, is it the technology audit. Maybe for this week we focus on the 4, that is financial audit, compliance audit, performance audit, as well as the public financial management audit. So I would like now us to define each one of these. So maybe we begin with the financial audit. What is involved? What kind of audit is this?
Thank you very much. So when it comes to a financial audit, I'll give it from the perspective of when you visit an an institution, an entity, for example, a ministry. So when you go into a ministry, a financial audit entails that the Office of the Auditor General is going to look at the financial statements of that institution. So now, why are we looking at the financial statements of that institution? It's to establish whether those financial statements have been prepared in accordance with the prescribed laws, the rules, and the regulations that govern that institution. So with financial statements, it's basically the financial reporting framework for that institution. For example, if you go to a government ministry, it's the IPSAs. The IPSAs, these are International Public Sector Accounting Standards. So those institutions are supposed to prepare the financial statements in line with the prescribed IPSAs. So where there are variations, then the Office of the Auditor General is going to obtain reasonable assurance to guide the users of those financial statements for them to know whether they have been materially misstated due to fraud or error. And then thereafter we'll be able to provide an opinion on those financial statements. So those are financial audits. Yes.
If we can also move on to compliance audit before Mrs. Sakala looks at the performance audit.
Okay. So compliance audits do not necessarily concentrate so much on the financial statements, but these are the ones that are done where when you go into an institution, you have a subject matter. So when there's a subject matter, you want to know whether that institution is operating in line with the rules, the laws and regulations that govern that institution. So now that subject matter is guided by authorities, and those authorities have criteria which should be followed by those institutions. So if we go into that institution as Office of the Auditor General, we want to know whether the subject matter is in line with the rules and regulations that are set for that institution. Those are compliance audits. So it's basically seeing whether the operations of that institution comply to the rules and regulations that are put in place in that place. Yes.
And with regards to performance audits?
Thank you, Julius. Performance audit is an independent, objective, reliable examination of whether government undertakings, systems, programs, or indeed organizations are operating in line with the principles of economy, efficiency, and effectiveness. While we are still on the definition, there are 3 words that I have mentioned, Julius, which I want to amplify. I talked about independence. The Office of the Auditor General is independent from the executive. This is why the audits are done independently, because the executive that implements the program are completely separate from the Office of the Auditor General. Secondly, I wanted to talk about objective audit. As Office of the Auditor General, we carry out objective audit. We are not subjective in the way we carry out our audit. So we want to give the viewers, the listeners, or indeed the public at large, we want to give them information that is not subjective. Then we also talked about reliability there. in the definition. So when we're talking about the reliability, we are looking at, we go in this institution to look for reliable information. We don't do our audit based on hearsay. It is based on what we have obtained on the ground. Thank you, Julius.
Right. With that, then we'll look at the public financial management audit also, which is one of the four audit focus we are focusing on this week.
Okay. Thank you so much, Julius. So the public financial management audits are quite new to the office, and these audits are audits that are done when we go into institutions to find out whether those institutions are able to account for public finances. So how do we establish whether they are able to account for those public finances? There are rules that are put in those institutions. There are regulations that are set in those institutions. So now when we go in, we're trying to see whether those rules that are set for those government institutions, other spending agencies, also departments and ministries, they are abiding to those rules and regulations that are put in place. So for the purpose of ensuring accountability of public finances, those are what we call public financial management audits. Yes.
Right. Having talked about, I'll get back to you, Mrs. Sakala. I talked about regard with efficiency. From your experience as we undertake these audits, as you go to institutions, and then with regards to management and its efficiency for service delivery, what are some of the details you look at with regards to promoting efficiency and effectiveness in the service delivered by these entities?
Thank you for that question, because those are actually the pillar or the anchor of what performance audit is. When we are looking at, I'll start with economy, we are looking at, has the ministry or the organization that we are auditing, have they spent their money wisely? Here we are looking at how have they spent the money. Have they used the money to buy quality commodities or to provide quality services, or indeed have the services been provided on time, or indeed are they being provided at the right place? For example, if we are talking about construction of a road, so what we are saying is, has the road been constructed at the right price, or indeed at the right time? If it has been given 2 years, has it been done in that same 2 years, and then at the right price as well as quantity? When we talk about quantity, quality, we also look at the spec. Have they followed the spec in constructing that road? But when we are looking at efficiency, we are looking at government to carry out various services. Indeed, the organizations that we are auditing, they put in resources in terms of human resource, they put in resources in terms of financial or indeed other logistics. So we want to see these logistics that Parliament has given to the government departments to use. Have they used them efficiently? Have we obtained maximum benefit from those resources? That is what we do when we are looking at efficiency. But when we are looking at economy, effectiveness rather, we are looking at goal attainment. Because when Parliament provides budgets to undertake various programs for government, so those programs, the government will be trying to achieve certain goals. So we want to see, if they said we want to build a school, has the school been built? So you want to see, has the goal been met? Yes.
So how long has this audits been there for in the history of the Republic of Zambia? When did the office embark on these audits? I don't know whether they can compare them in one, or there's been reforms and changes along the way, but in general terms and general aspects, how long has these audits been undertaken?
Thank you. I can start maybe. When it comes to performance audit, Julius, you know that the world over started the performance audit in 1960. In Africa, performance audits were started in the 90s. Some countries started in the 90s. But ourselves as Zambia, we only started performance audit in 2004 after the office was restructured, and a unit called performance and environmental audit was created. This unit has started only with 8 members of staff, but last year the office also underwent a second restructuring, and the unit now has been upgraded to a directorate of, now right now we have about 18 members of staff that are carrying out performance audits. So in a nutshell, performance audit started in 2004.
And the other areas of focus.
Okay, so thank you very much, Julius. For financial audits and compliance audits, these audits started from time immemorial, from as far back as from when the office came into being. However, before that, they used to be called regularity audits because it was a combination of both financial and compliance audits. But to zero into financial audits, the office embarked on financial audits in 2017. So in 2017, that's when we now zeroed into the financial audits with support from the AFROS-IE and GIZ. So the AFROS-IE is the organization for African Supreme Audit Institutions, that's English speaking. So those are the ones that help the Office of the Auditor General to come up with our own financial audits as an office. That was in 2017. Similarly, even for compliance audits, we started in 2017 as an office. Single compliance audits, that's in 2017. Also, that was motivated by AFROS-IE and GIZ. So after introducing them into the office, we've customized them to how the office can embark on those audits so that we can do them to deliver exactly what stakeholders are looking for once we execute those audits in those institutions for the benefit of the citizens at large. Thank you so much.
And with regards to the public financial management audit?
So the public financial management audit is quite new to the office. That one started sometime in 2022 because we were trained as an office in 2021, and then in 2022 we embarked on the first audit as an office, but we never published that report. So what we've done is that this year we are conducting that audit in 6 institutions, 3 core entities, which is the Ministry of Finance, the Zambia Revenue Authority, Parliament, and then also 3 ministries, which is the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Education, and the Ministry of Agriculture. So hopefully before the year comes to an end and before we produce the Auditor General's report in September, we'll be able to publish that report also for the public financial management audit. Yes.
You can also share with us what motivated the Office of the Auditor General to undertake all these transitional reforms, and along the way you can also share with us what really have we achieved. How has this splits and implementation of these movements helped shape the running and efficient running of government spending agencies' expenditure with regards to public resources?
Thank you again, Julius, for that question. When it comes to performance audit, the office was motivated to conduct performance audit because performance audit contributes to the delivery of audit or for services that are economically done, and they are efficient and they are effective. But also the performance audit also helps in providing good governance, transparency, and as well as accountability. When we talk about accountability, as we carry out these performance audits, you find that various organizations that we audit are able to account to the Zambians, to the people out there of the various services that government has offered. So it brings about transparency, so meaning the results of whatever they are doing has been looked at by an independent auditor and they are made available to the public.
And then your area?
Okay, so what motivated financial audits for the Office of the Auditor General? When it comes to financial audits, finances are of utmost importance to the public. People want to know how the finances are being used. Finances relate to financial statements. So now, as Office of the Auditor General, to provide confidence in the stakeholders, the users of those financial statements, we were motivated to start doing this financial audits in order to give the stakeholders or the users of those financial statements confidence that the figures are Of course, we won't give absolute assurance that the figures are accurate, but at least we can give reasonable assurance that those figures are accurate, they are free of bias, and they present fairly. So that was the motivation for the financial audits. Then when it comes to compliance audits, the Office of the Auditor General was motivated to do the compliance audits as a way of ensuring institutions that whatever subject matter is involved, for example, procurement, if an institution is like Ministry of Energy, they go into procurement of fuel, we want to give confidence to the stakeholders that that procurement was done in accordance with the rules and regulations that are put in place at the Ministry of Energy. So that's what motivated us when it comes to compliance audits. And then with regards to public financial management audit, public finance is of utmost importance to the country at large, to the citizens at large. So as Office of the Auditor General, we want to give the citizens confidence that this institution is following the rules and the regulations that are put in place when they are conducting their operations. So that's what motivated the office to do these 3 audits that I've talked about.
And most of these irregularities keep recurring in most of your reports. Procurement, overpricing, inflation of things, and a lot of other irregularities. They are almost like similar. Almost each report you will produce every year with regards to all these financial statements and things like that. There are all these irregularities that look common. How do you intend, or what instruments do you need to have so that you strengthen on the operations of the Office of the Auditor General?
Maybe I can start, Julius. Ourselves as Office of the Auditor General, when we look at the reports that we produce under financial audit from the performance point of view, when a problem is recurring, there could be another reason why that problem is recurring. And in most cases, you find that it means there is a performance issue. One example I can give is maybe we'll highlight in our financial audit reports to say ministry so-and-so has failed to spend 2 billion that was allocated to them. The question we'll ask ourselves as performance auditors is, why have they failed to spend 2 million? Do they have the right people to carry out the activity which was supposed to be done? Already we've gone into performance, because we said performance, we look at human resources, we look at financial resources and other things. So you may find that yes, they have been given the financials, but the people are not there on the ground to undertake the work. So this is why when we see problems recurring, we want to look at them also from the performance point of view to say, what exactly is going on in this organization? What is going on in this ministry? Where are they lacking? Do they have the right laws? Do they have the right policies to help them deliver the services that they have promised to the people?
Right, you are listening and watching and also following the Auditor and You radio and television program. We are also live on our social media platforms. Our topic of discussion today is types of audits the Office of the Auditor General is engaged in, and also why the office is engaged in such activities. My guest, Ms. Doris Kazembe, who is the Principal Auditor, Ministerial Appropriations and Audit Secretary, Directorate. I also have Mrs. Magaisa Sakala, Principal Auditor, Performance and Environmental Audits Directorate. So as we look at the types of audits, if you want to participate, our SMS line is 0978-772801. That is 0978-772801. Or you can drop a comment on our National Assembly Facebook page as well. Earlier, Mrs. Kazembe, you were looking at, you talked about some of the standards and the guidelines. Maybe would you be able to elaborate in detail some of these standards and guidelines that you use in undertaking audits?
Yes. So I'll start with, thank you so much. I'll start with the financial audit. So the standard that governs the financial audit is ESI 1250. So the viewers may want to understand what ESI means. So ESI actually stands for International Standards for Supreme Audit Institutions. So Office of the Auditor General is one of the many Supreme Audit institutions that we have in Africa. So To govern the financial audits, we have this ESI 1250, which ensures that the financial statements are not materially misstated, and they are prepared in accordance with the financial reporting framework that's laid for that institution. That's ESI 1250. I'll skip the compliance. I'll go to public financial management. So for public financial management, similarly to what Mrs. Sakala was talking about, the standard is ESI 12, and this looks at the value that the Office of the Auditor General is going to give once it does these audits to the citizenry or to the citizens of this country at large. So it's basically that's the value that will come out of the audits that we do. That's ESI 12 for public financial management audits. And then when it comes to compliance audits, the standard is ESI 4000. So what does ESI 4000 talk about? It talks about compliance to the rules, the laws and regulations that are put in place in an institution, be it a project, be it a local authority, be it a ministry, be it a statutory body. There are rules and regulations that govern the operations of those entities. So ESI 4000 is put in place to enable auditors from the Office of the Auditor General to determine whether those institutions are actually following those rules and regulations. And if we find that there is any non-compliance, we are going to report it. It will come out in the Auditor General's report, and the citizenry and other stakeholders are going to be able to tell the wrongs or the wrongs or the shortfalls that are happening in those institutions.
Okay. So I can take it up maybe from the performance audit point of view. Performance audit, we also have about five main ESIs, standards that we follow. The first one, of course, is the one that my colleague ended with, which is ESI 12, value and benefit of the SI to the citizenry. This standard is exactly like what we are doing right now. We are implementing that standard because that standard requires us that we communicate our results to the public, to the citizen. Secondly, there is a standard which we call the ESI 100. The ESI 100 is a public sector financial management standard. This one is followed by all the auditors, irrespective of what type of audit you are doing, whether financial, IT, or performance. You have to follow those ones because those are fundamental principles. But when it comes to performance audit, there are also added fundamental principles, which is ESI 300. Then apart from that one, we also have ESI 3000 as well as ESI 3100. Together we normally call them the 3000 series. In the 3000 series, these standards, they give the Office of the Auditor General guidance on how to set up a performance audit function, how to conduct audits, and they give more details on how various audits can be carried out. Why standards, you may ask? We want to give our viewers, or indeed the citizenry to whom we are addressing right now, that as Office of the Auditor General, we want to give you quality, because we believe in quality audit work, and therefore we have to ascribe to these standards, and we need to follow them, and so that we make sure we give you audit reports that are of quality. Thank you very much.
Then what the targets, the mischiefs of the target that we intend to give as we undertake this very important things?
Thank you so much again. In performance audit, what we are trying to cure is mostly how the resources have been used. Have the resources that have been used in various programs, projects, or indeed activities, have they been used optimally? Or are we getting results from what what government is allocating, or what Parliament is allocating to these various government departments? So we want to make sure value is obtained from there.
Then how are these audit performance audit topics selected in a year? Is it over a period of time, or is it a program that you undertake annually? How do you select these audit topics?
Thank you. I like that question a lot. In the Office of the Auditor General, we carry out selection of the audit topics in two stages. The first stage, we do what we call sector assessment. Under sector assessment, we are scanning the environment. By scanning the environment, what I mean is we'll be listening to parliamentary debates. I'm sure that will excite you since we are from Parliament. We listen to the debates. What is it being discussed in the House? How is it impacting on the citizens? How can we come in as auditors to help in those areas? We are also listening to TV. We are listening to radio. So when you and me are in the same room listening to TV and radio, me as a performance auditor, I'll be looking at it differently. I'll be trying to understand what programs are being done. How is government spending? Where is government spending its focus? Where are the resources going? What are the problems that our citizens are facing? And also, we will also be reading the newspapers. We scan the environment by reading the newspapers. We read all of them, both the electronic ones as well as the print media. We want to see what are the problems that are coming from the citizen, because we have said that these reports, we produce them for the citizen. And if we are going to produce performance audit reports, they should address the needs of the citizen. So if the citizen are complaining that there is malaria, for instance, then we, as Auditor General, when we read such news, we'll be looking at it and we'll be asking ourselves, why are people dying of malaria? Are they using the mosquito nets that are being given to them by Minister of Health? What about the health facilities that have been constructed? Are people accessing them? How far are they from the areas where they stay? So those questions begin, and from there we begin to select a lot of topics. So once we select those topics, of course, at various looking at those topics. So in mind, with the coming of Constitution, the amended Constitution for 2016, the Amendment Act, you find that we have the mandate to carry out almost all performance audits that we may think of. But we always ask ourselves that question all the time, just to counter check. Apart from the mandate, we also look at do we have the skills that we need, human skills to carry out the audit. For example, if we are going to audit a performance audit of a road, do we have the engineer to help us dig out the core from the road so that we can see the layers, whether they match according to the BOQ that has been provided by maybe RDA? So if we feel we are going to need an engineer on that performance audit, then we will ask ourselves, do we have them internally in the office? If we don't have them, how do we hire them in? So we budget for those. So apart from that, we also look at how will this topic, when we audit it, how will it impact the citizen? Will it bring value to the citizen? For example, if government said they were going to build a school, and that school is target to access that school, they'll be left behind. So this is why, as performance auditors, we want to see that this is done and it's impacting on the citizenry at large. If we are looking at waste management, we want to see if the Lusaka City Council, for example, or indeed any other council, if they are not collecting garbage, how will it impact the citizen? You'll find that in most cases, the citizens will get sick. They'll have cholera. They'll get other diarrheal diseases, or indeed any other diseases that can come as a result of having garbage in the country. And as well, if garbage is not collected, it's unsightly. No one wants to see garbage around. So we want to have the citizen in mind whenever we are looking at this topic. And once we have looked at all these factors, then we'll be able to say, okay, out of the 20 that we identified, I think these 5 are directly impacting on the citizen. So we pick them and then we audit.
Topics
For finance, annual. We audit various institutions, for example, ministries, we audit statutory bodies, we audit projects, and we also audit agencies. So it depends on which institutions we've provided to be audited in that particular year. So it's not so much to do with topics like performance audit.
Right.
Yes.
And then as you choose your topics, Mrs. Sakala, do you share them with the public, or you just work in the background, go out in the field? For example, if I were to ask you during this year under review, what are you focusing on? Are those topics made public prior to, or only when the report is out?
Thank you very much, Julius, for that question. First of all, I want to say that for a SI to be independent, it means that it should have that independence to choose what it is going to audit. It should mean not be subjected to any bias for them to choose a topic that they are going to audit. So, of course, as performance audit, we select topics that we are going to look at, but that does not mean that the public cannot request for those topics. But when they request, we may consider them and look at them. But even if they don't request, this is why we have this detailed sector assessment to take care of their needs, Parliament's needs, the government, the various government's programs, all of them, we look at their needs. Where is government sending the money? So once we produce these topics, like I said, we have a database where we normally keep these topics. We don't share them to the public, but if they requested, they probably maybe would give them. But these are internal operations. Like this year, for this year, we have identified already about 15 topics that we were looking at last week, which we will be pushing forward into our budget maybe for September. So the area watching has already started, but indeed they are not public documents because these are internal audit. And because we don't live in a vacuum, there are times when even the executive has requested for topics to be done. All those have been considered as an office because we want to be relevant based on ESI 12. But most of the time, these are internal, and because of the requirement of that we should be independent, we select them ourselves.
My SMS line is 0978 772801. If you have a comment to make or contribution to make, please feel free to send your text messages to us. 0978 772801. Or you can drop a message on our Facebook page, which is the National Assembly of Zambia Facebook page. Having talked about all this, well, are you able to just share with us, citizens and viewers and followers there, some of the audits that citizens can relate to and the outcomes? What has it really come out of these audits that citizens can relate to?
Okay, maybe you can start.
With,
Okay.
Okay. So when it comes to financial audits, we've been doing these audits all the time. So I'll give you an example of the audit of the Ministry of Education. The audit of the Ministry of Education is a financial audit. So when we go into the audit of the Ministry of Education, we are trying to see whether the resources that were budgeted for, that were put in place with regards to, for example, construction of schools, are being used for the intended purpose. So when we go into those places, we will select some of the schools that were supposed to be constructed. We'll go and visit them and see the levels of construction where they are at, and whether even the contractors or suppliers for various services are being paid in accordance with the budgets that are put in place in that ministry. And then I'll also give you another example of a financial audit for a project. For example, the audit of the Zambia Education Enhancement Project, which is ZIP. So that audit was done this year for the year 2022, where the mandate of that project is to construct schools. And once the schools are constructed, they're supposed to be given furniture, they're supposed to be given laptops or other equipment. So as Office of the Auditor General, we're supposed to go and see whether that loan which was given to the government for the purpose of executing that project is actually being used for the intended purpose. So that's for financial audit. Maybe Madam Magaisa can also explain on performance.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. From 2004, when we started the audit, to date, we've done over 40 audit topics. But maybe for the purpose of this meeting, I will pick out a few. Just a few examples, so that people can know. We have looked at provision of extension services in Zambia. We've looked at performance audit on environmental degradation caused by mining activities. We've looked at performance audit on renewable energy. We are talking about energy now. I'm sure people may be interested to read that report, because now we are grappling with the issues of energy. Probably they want to go to the website and look for that report, so that they can have access to it and see what was recommended from the Office of Auditor General in the use of renewable energy. We have also looked at topics like performance audit on the effects of climate change on food security. We have also done a performance audit on government measures to reduce road traffic accidents. As you are aware, there was a time when we were having a lot of accidents, and in this report we tried to look at what is causing the accidents on the road. Is the road not maintained? Is it not having enough road furniture in terms of signage? Is the grass around the road indeed removed? So all these reports are some of those that we have done. We've done waste management, we've done water pollution, and we've done also special education. So why are we talking about these reports? We want to draw the attention of the public that these reports, we produce them for them, and we have them in mind when we produce them. So they should access our website. When they go to our website of the Office of the Auditor General Zambia, they'll be able to find different types of report. There will be financial report, there will be performance audit report. Under performance report, there are also a number of topics that we have done. And if they don't find them, they are free to request for this. Also, this year, we will be featuring at the showgrounds. Let the citizen also take time and visit our stand. We may have samples there which they can take away and read at our showground. So we encourage them to visit our stand at the showground, pick a few reports for themselves.
What positives you want to chip in before you?
Actually, I just wanted to say something about compliance audits, because the viewers may be wondering whether the Office of the Auditor General has done any compliance audits before. So we've done a number of compliance audits. A notable example is the compliance audit which was done on the Energy Regulation Board. So when we went into the Energy Regulation Board, we were trying to see how the strategic reserves were being accounted for, or how they were being managed. So I'll give you an example of the uniform petroleum pricing as one of the issues, the subject matters that we looked at in the compliance audit. So when you look at the pricing of fuel, we have a uniform price. When you go to Kasama, you go to Choma, you go to Chipata, the price of fuel is uniform. So the Energy Regulation Board comes in by ensuring that the prices of fuel are uniform. So in our report, we were able to state our findings, and like Madam Sakala said, when you go to the website for the Office of the Auditor General, you'll be able to see all the detailed findings. Then when it comes to strategic reserves, how does Zambia reserve fuel? In that report, the viewers are able to see the places around the country where there are strategic reserves for fuel. And then when it comes to energy, how the strategic reserve is, or the issues to do with that compliance. We're trying to see whether ZESCO, which is under the Ministry of Energy, has put in place measures to ensure that we have electricity all the time. As Madam Magaisa said, we are going through a situation where we have energy problems, electricity problems. So that's one of the reports that the viewers can go to see how the Energy Regulation Authority is managing the energy sector in the country. Thank you so much.
Just maybe in closing, we want our listeners and our followers, viewers, of course, just to have an understanding of the difference between what we are talking about, something that they take home to, with rather difference between performance and financial auditing.
Thank you very much. There are a lot of differences actually between performance and financial audit. The first one is what we have already discussed, both of us have discussed, which is the purpose. Because the purpose for performance audit is to ascertain whether economy, efficiency and effectiveness has been achieved. But my colleague also mentioned that the first difference is that financial audit is to give an opinion as to whether the financial statements show a true and fair view of the financial statements there. But the second difference between performance and financial audit is that with performance audit, we focus on results. We focus on results. We want to see whereas our friends focus on the compliance of the report or focus on the financial statement showing a true and fair view, as we want to see the results. If what was promised was a road, we want to see whether that road has been constructed. If what was promised is a school, we want to see that that school has been constructed. But not only being constructed, but we want also to see that the citizens out there are having access to that school. They are sending their children to that school, and children are learning. If the target group was 100 students, when we go there, we want to see that indeed 100 students are accessing, not 60. Because if 60 are accessing instead of 100, then it means there is no goal attainment. It means the goal that government has put in place has not been achieved. It means we are underutilizing that risk facility, and that is what we focus on as performance audit.
Well, I would love to go on, but my director, we are running out of time because of the other programming. But maybe before I let you go, assurance to members of the public that you mean well as you undertake these audits on an annual basis.
Okay. Thank you very much, Julius. So indeed, the Office of the Auditor General means well. We are not bloodhounds. When we got into these institutions, it's not like we are trying to find faults. We are actually going into those institutions to help them to abide by the rules and regulations that are put in place. For example, under financial audit, we want to ensure that the financial statements are not misstated. There are no errors. There are no problems. They are following the accounting framework that is put in place. That's what we do when we go as Office of the Auditor General. When it comes to compliance, we're trying to ensure that those institutions, they follow the rules and regulations that are put in place when it comes to management of the financial resources that are given to them. When it comes to PFM, Public Financial Management Audits, we are trying just to establish the root cause of underperformance in that institution. It's not like we're trying to fault those institutions, but trying to know exactly why are the problems in this institution. And all in all, when we come at the end of the audit, we are trying to provide impactful recommendations that are going to heal the problems that are in those institutions. So we mean well when we go into these institutions to do the audits as Office of the Auditor General. Thank you, Julius.
All right, and also from your angle of performance auditing and assurance to our citizens with regards to that project that has been taken to the far end of the country, and that you mean well that this project should impact and also just be a good project for the citizens, and also on service delivery to the people as promised by the government.
Thank you very much, Julius. I want to assure our viewers that themselves as Zambians, they do not have mandate to go in all these government institutions to get the information that they may want, to help them know what the government is doing, the programs that government is implementing. They have put us as Office of the Auditor General as performance auditors. We are their eyes. We are the eyes of the public. We are there to go in these institutions to get the information and give them that assurance that yes, this is how the resources that you have assigned as taxpayers, that you have assigned to the government to use to construct a road, to construct a school, to construct a bridge, or indeed to use in various programs. This is how they've used it. And if that program is there, in performance audit, I must say, Julius, that is one of the audits where I said we don't bring in bias. If we find things are okay, we will state things were okay. And if things were not okay, we will also state things were not okay. In financial audit, we just talk about the exceptions. We report on the exceptions. But in performance audit, we give both. Try to read our report. You'll be able to see that in some of those areas, there are also good points. So if a program is working very well, we have outrightly said that. So what are we saying to our citizen? We are there for you. These reports, we produce them for you. Please read them. We go deeper to get this information, reliable information, and we do it with you in mind so that you can have quality reports for informed decision making.
Mrs. Kazembe and Mrs. Sakala, thank you for appearing on our program.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
And thank you, viewers.
And thank you, viewers.
All right, there you have it. Not though exhaustive, but I will be looking at the types of audits that the Office of the Auditor General is engaged in and why. And my guests were Mrs. Doris Kazembe, Principal Auditor, Ministerial Appropriations Audit Directorate, as well as Mrs. Magaisa Sakala, Principal Auditor, Performance and Environmental Audits Directorate. I said we've not exhausted the types of audits. Next week, we'll be looking at the information technology audits and forensic and investigative audits. If you have more questions to engage the Ministry, the Office of the Auditor General, please do write to the Office of Auditor General and using the email address, which is auditor@ago.gov.zm. This has been your presenter, Julius Samishmali, and on my sign language interpretation, and Jason Manda, on behalf of the entire production team. I want to thank you for watching, viewing, and listening. We'll be back next week at the same time.
Her Honor, the Vice President's question time.
Questions for oral answer understanding order number 76.
For a matter to be admitted, it has to be of recent occurrence.
Continue watching Parliament TV, a channel dedicated to bring Parliament closer to you.
Parliament is open to members of the general public who may wish to undertake familiarization tours of Parliament buildings, either in groups or as individuals, or to attend sittings of the House or parliamentary committees. All those wishing to visit Parliament can either write to the Clerk of the National Assembly of Zambia or simply come to Parliament buildings. Upon arrival at Parliament buildings, visitors are required to identify themselves. A passport or national registration card is required for identification purposes. All visitors to parliamentary premises are required to wear smart attire, either office or casual wear. Before gaining access to the galleries, all visitors are oriented and issued with passes by the Security Department at the Media and Visitors Center. Those whom permission is granted to sit in the galleries will be ushered to the appropriate galleries by protocol officers. Furthermore, visitors are not allowed to take with them into the galleries such articles as walking sticks, umbrellas, briefcases or parcels of any type, newspapers, magazines or cell phones. All such articles must be deposited at the reception desk. Visitors to the galleries are given copies of the order paper which shows the order in which the business of that particular day would be taken. You can follow all parliamentary sessions and committee sittings on GoTV Channel 28, Topstar Channel 5, DSTV Channel 272, Parliament Radio, or like the National Assembly of Zambia Facebook page.
So another part of the Jewish history of this town is in fact the Pioneer Tower behind me. That was funded by the Sussman brothers. They were amongst the first Jewish people to come to this country back in the 1890s. And once Livingston Town was built in 1905, they were amongst the first inhabitants. And 50 years later, as part of the celebration of their lives in this country, they funded the building of the clock tower. And of course it has a wonderful view over the falls, which we can see in front of us here, all the way down there. So it's part of the celebration, and 100 years later the Sussman brothers came back, and the Lutunga came from Barot Sudan to come and meet them. That is the prominence that this particular family had in this country, and of course in South Africa, because they left here, Livingston, to go to South Africa, where they set up in South Africa the company called Woolworths. So to this day the Jewish people have a strong influence not only in this country but in the sub-region. This is Nicky Iljon's shop.
The Iljon family, of which there were various members of it, were one of the first inhabitants of the new town of Livingston, and this shop became one for selling bicycles and model aeroplanes. Now Nicky Iljon himself was the one who sadly closed down the synagogue when the last child had gone through there back in 1972. They then left here to go abroad after that. But behind me you can see there's a shop with pharmacy written on it. This used to be Sossi's Garage. This was a man called Harry Sossen who married into the Sussman family, and he had the leadership of the Chevrolets back in the Northern Rhodesian days. And also, I'm pointing out over here, this tree is exactly where King George VI of Great Britain stood in 1947 in his visit to this country. Behind me is the Capitol Theatre, which today is the oldest cinema and theatre left in Zambia, and it was owned originally by the Grill family, and a young man married into their family, and his name was Harry Sossen, who we've talked about earlier. And this is where famous people in the world like Alfred Hitchcock and Danny Kaye came through to see films here. It was built in 1931, and beyond it is the yellow building, Stanley House, which is where they sold the finery to the local girls. That was dresses and all the rest of it as well. And then further down the road is a very famous intersection. This was the main intersection in town, and everybody in town knew it as Fix, Flax and Allfox Corner, after the three traders who were there. There was Sam Fix, who ran a wonderful dressmaking company. Old man Flax ran the haberdashery, like a hardware store, and beyond it was the Allfox family, and they traded in everything else. And the humour at the time was that these three business folk made all their money during the day and ran it across the bank, which is on the fourth corner. And if you look down the end, there's actually a lovely white building over there, which used to be Barclays before it moved across the road. The three shops behind me were owned by a gentleman called Elias Kapelowitz. Elias came from Latvia just before the First World War and traded with the local people further upstream. He used to paddle with his workers 40 miles upstream to exchange goods like beeswax and honey and things like that. And he then left here just after the First World War to go back to get a wife from Latvia, and they came through. Her name was Henny, and they ran the first completely kosher household in town. And they were very influential in here. They had an open house policy, and many Jewish people came through here. But their importance was recognized later on in life when they had both died, as their family received a letter of condolence from Buckingham Palace because of all the wonderful work they'd been doing for the communities, not just the Jewish communities, out here in the then Northern Rhodesia. And I think that's a great rubber stamping of the kinds of people we had coming over here in the early years. When the town of Livingston was built in 1905, provision was actually made for a synagogue to be built, and originally the site was where the St Andrew's Anglican Church is today. But eventually in 1928 this site was taken over and the first synagogue in this country was built. The stone was unveiled by Eli Sussman, who later on left to go down to South Africa. But this is where they had a hall where they could all get together on the Sabbath and speak Hebrew and pass on all their traditions. The middle building was where the rabbi lived, and of course this here was the synagogue. Here we are at the Jewish cemetery, a place of great sanctity for the Jewish people. The first grave in Livingston town back in 1905 was in fact grave number 1 at the far end, Mr. Gelman, Abraham Gelman. This particular cemetery is now closed as the last Jewish person left the town. It was then closed up. But our traveling rabbi, Moshe Silverhaupt, came through, and with his work and guidance we've been able to get it to this wonderful level. where people come through and visit the graves. It's custom in the Jewish tradition to put a stone on the grave as you go past. It's like saying, I've been here and I've left a message. And you can see the wonderful plaque we've had installed here, which just gives you an outline of the Jewish involvement in the area. We're now at what became the heart of the Sussman Empire. That is the Mulabezi railway line. They were trading in cattle and in timber by this stage. And so what we have here is a 2-in-1. This is the first railway museum in the country and the first Jewish museum in one.
The Jewish Museum opened its doors to the general public in September 2013, just to narrate the history of the Jews, those who settled in Zambia. They came a long time ago, in the early 1920s, most of them. They came through Zimbabwe from Victoria Falls. By 1905, coming up with the opening of the railway line, which gave them an opportunity to start trading along the railway line up to Congo. So some of them from Livingstone, they went to settle in Lusaka and Kabwe in the Copper Belt. Lusaka and Kabwe, then in the Copper Belt up to Congo here. So these are the areas where the Jewish community were able to settle. While in the Copper Belt, there were already mushrooming industries that were able to give them business, like the opening of the mines there. They were also trying to bring some multi-industries along the line of rail, which gave them business. Now the coming up of settling this museum here is just to appreciate their contributions in terms of the local, their contributions to the local community, their contributions in terms of economic, social and political. So the history covers the entire Zambia. Otherwise it opened its doors in 2013 in September. So as we enter inside the Jewish Museum, we will be able to follow their chronological history. This was the first Jewish wedding which was conducted here in Livingstone by the Anne Green family and the Harris Asmans in 1910. The first Jewish wedding in northern Rhodesia by then. Yes, otherwise all these activities, they are narrating the history of Livingstone for the Jews that were settling here. You can see these were one of the early shops, which was for the Green General outfitters in Livingstone around 1910. You can even see. Unfortunately, these buildings are no longer in existence, but as for this one and that capital theatre, this one, when you go right to the center of Livingstone town, you are able to see the building. So, it shows, it's just narrating the history of Livingstone. What did they come to do? For how long? That's the history of the Livingstonians.
Tambiangula wa mulwaka wa musawa utamba kufama ya mbuta zikutambaroka na singwa kumutondo na sile ngwandati wambere nyati wambere ngombe munukasa wa mwambeli nabanaka kwanga nyina mumule ya mukati wa kukwala kwa katwese kumwambela tineki mwiye twende tali ambayi na ngumela ndo iyo wayo wawesanela ndwa mbungwanye tena litilera manyerere aruina litilera omukungatanga ndwa maya Wiru yotangete nyomusila kwalanga mungambayi mwana mukamba noyenyi tokunyendera twiru nyendera mukungumba sita mwana lyambayi wakuti mwana bali mwana mukowe wese kumwala kumiona mbo umufere chinyeke inyunyumani veulu itako utete tokuwaulwa kwa kwaona lyondo vilona sile mandumba iwa nitundu vile njihini ngasino mene timeka munu wiru kisiwa na mbonwa na banaka kwa ngaita ena nyina kumuva kutongoka kumuyume na kutongoka wiru muna nungu mwero mukugandela Wiye twende kakwisesi kana mwera konji ngoma na rumino boyi wakulitili ngoma watifula na tinaende mwenduko mukulo ipuwa kutombwela tineki Tangwe
mbele nguvu karusi nao. Wakati mwana kepe kwa naramu na wami kubwa wanawae suna kepe yao. Lazima kiama ndio mazu se kwa tomo. Mwana na watu kutaka. Kama kepe mazu se kwa tomo. Please, all the men put on head to great.
River Champions. Run it 2 times in a row.
Oh, okay. We have a hippo burst in the orange box, fast movement, fast pace. Quickly getting away from the hippo, that's what it would look like. We have the rest of birds coming in, very good sculling from the orange crew. Then we have the red crew doing the hippo burst and the green crew moving quite fast. Obviously the boats are being controlled by Tim, with the flight riding the blazer and the safety dog in the middle. Tim Cook is the founder of George and Benji, and the Cook family is a very strong rowing family. Zambian roots. There's emergency scope and turn into elephants. Requires a lot of skill. Okay, still no change in it, we still have South Africa in the lead, Oxford coming second, Cambridge lagging behind in third. Which South Africa is going to take the Victor Wadurum Cup this year round. South Africa coming strong, Peter. South Africa coming strongly. South Africa coming strongly. Here comes South Africa in very, very strongly. Sponsored by David Livingston Safari, Livingston's Adventure. And coming up to the final, it's going to be an easy win here. Easy win for South Africa came in and at least for one thing, because Mr. Brink will never really get away with it. Anyway, that's outstanding. Well played the Zambian team. Outstanding.
Zambia! The first thing to realize is that history repeats itself all the time. And what happened in 1910, the authorities back then brought the World Championships of rowing to this town. And it was a marketing coup, because you can only host World Cup events in peaceful countries. Okay? And the movement of investors into this country back then in 1910 was enormous. So, if we do it again, we should see it all happen, because these guys will leave here praising South Africa. It's been very peaceful whilst they've been here, naturally, because that's what they like. Very wonderful people, they're always happy and except in the open arms. And we had an amazing traditional event yesterday, and His Majesty here. Now, if people go to London to watch the changing of the guard of Buckingham Palace in red tunics, imagine coming to see a wonderful barge over here on the river. Our problem is that Zambia is big. It's 4 times bigger than England. It's twice the size of Zimbabwe. So a lot of our events are so far away, it's difficult to get people to them. So we can bring them to the central focus, which is Livingston. It's got the Victoria Falls, the highest bridge in the world from 1905 at the time. All these wonderful other assets to it. And we can bring a little bit of traditional Zambia here too. Then my job is easy.
Come on, guys, give it more power. 1, 2, 3.
So as the ABSA Group, which is the parent company of Barclays Bank Zambia, we are delighted to have been involved with this Livingston Regatta as a mark of what ABSA promises to bring in the Zambian market. And this is the partnership in terms of how we want to support the different sectors of the Zambian economy. And so this is one way that we're supporting the tourism sector, because we believe that tourism is the future of Zambia. And with ABSA coming into Zambia, you can look forward to more partnerships because we are building on the rich heritage, the 100-year heritage of buckets as set for us in Zambia. We understand the Zambian market, and with APSA and with the sponsorship that you've seen, greater things lie ahead. And so Zambians can look forward to great things with APSA.
Livuti.